Okay, so this is pre-launch content video number 2 of Susan Garrett's launch. This is her brilliant recalls.com launch. Susan is a dog trainer, specifically a dog agility trainer. So I went over this when I covered her first video, but she has a relatively small list of under 20,000 people. It's a small niche she's in. And she's had great success with product launch formula. And from the time she bought from August 2008 until now, her business has grown 77 times through using product launch formula, and she makes a huge impact on lots and lots of people. She went from having to travel 20 to 25 times per year to now just traveling 4 or 5 times a year to go to competitions. So, and this launch that we're going through is one of the most successful internal launches ever. Her result was amazingly huge, and this is a great example of a pre-launch that does a lot of heavy-duty teaching. So let's get into pre-launch video number 2, pre-launch content number 2. So here we go.
Hello and welcome back.
You're going to notice right at the beginning she basically gives a review of the first video, very quick review, and makes a big promise and builds the pain of avoiding training. So what she's doing in this video is she's setting up the whole video series sets up the idea of how training can be so powerful, and instead of managing your dog's behavior at every minute, if you just train them, make the investment in training them, then that pays off big time going forward. So in this, so the video starts strong where she reviews that first video, makes this big promise, and then talks about the pain of avoiding training. So here she is.
Last time I left you with the realization that we really have two paths that we can choose to take when attempting to impact the behavior of another animal, that of managing and that of inspiring behavior. Now remember that if we choose managing, we're buying into a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job. There is no day off. We have to make sure that our employees keep their nose to the grindstone, that our children clean up their room and do their homework, and that our dogs keep their feet off the counter and, by golly, stay out of the garbage. Just saying that sounds exhausting, doesn't it?
So Susan did a great job there of sort of building up that pain, and she did it in a light-hearted way. And now she's going to foreshadow the next 2 videos.
For these next 2 webinars, I'm going to be zeroing in on how we can create a framework to get that inspired behavior that we want so much from our dogs.
So one of the things you want to do in your videos is you don't want to think of them as one-off pieces. They have to tie together, create this entire arc, this story arc that you teach through your 3 videos. So you do want the videos to be able to stand alone. So if they just come in and watch that second video, if they're just coming in, they missed that first video, you want this video to stand alone. You want to reference back to that first video so your viewers want to go back and watch the first video. But this one has to stand alone, but you always have to be referring to the prior video and the coming video to create this entire story arc. It's not 3 stand-alone pieces. Now, in this next section right here, she's going to really give the hook for this video, which is the hook is the thing that's going to draw people in and keep them watching. So she really delivers the hook for this video, and she builds curiosity, and she overcomes objections in this next piece. And also in that last part, she was talking about the 2 different paths, and you'll see her continually referencing back to those 2 paths as she goes through this video. And this video is full of teaching. It's just got a ton of teaching, very valuable teaching in here. But watch this next section where she really sets the hook for this video and builds a curiosity, and she really starts overcoming or continues to overcome objections. And the main objection is, why should I put this time and effort? Why should I make the investment in training my dog?
The first step, which we're going to be talking about today, is getting an understanding of exactly what your dog really wants. What really inspires your child or employee or dog? You might be surprised what we're going to discover. It isn't going to be what you think. How do you inspire the uninspired? What if the target of our inspiration just doesn't have any interest in doing what we want them to do? What if the dog just wants to be left alone? Or maybe the dog already has a history of his own inspiration somewhere long way away from you. And what if our employees really just want to do the basics, all the minimum of all they can do to get by? Or your kid really thinks that you're uncool and doesn't want to be trained like a dog? Too often.
So in this next section, she's going to continue to do more objection crushing. So the objections are at this point, the objections are why should I put the time and effort in? I mean, that's the the big picture one, but within it, there's a lot of smaller objections of why this isn't going to work for me, why I can't train my dog. And she continues to crush those objections here. And this is, in addition, I mean, it's great education. She's doing amazing education here. She's educating on the opportunity to have a better trained dog and a better relationship with your dog. So there's much education in here, but in addition, she is just lining up those objections and knocking them down.
Then when I'm lecturing around the world to audiences on how to inspire behavior change, it's immediately assumed.
And you'll notice how she just slipped in the thing about lecturing audiences around the world. So that's a little subtle authority build that she slipped in there, almost unconsciously.
I'm just talking about looking for the opportunity to give an animal a treat. People managing people assume that maybe they should have a drawer full of jelly beans at their desk, or be in a financial position where they can hand over a big wad of cash. And if not, there's no way for them to make their employees feel reinforced. Although all of those things are going to be reinforcing to some individuals on some level, the biggest transformation in behavior does not occur in the traditional way of thinking about rewarding.
So this next section, she's really going to do some great myth busting, and she's really going to go deep on the teaching. So this next 3 or 4 minutes, I'll just show you a little bit of it. I encourage you to watch the full video, which you should be able to find right below this video. Watch the full video. But this myth busting really is great, because if you can go in and take the commonly held beliefs and blow them apart, that really it's incredibly compelling, incredibly attractive. It builds serious authority for you and is a great thing to build into your launch.
Now, I'm not saying that rewards to animals can't have an impact on behavior. My suggestion is that truly the best rewards are those that create the longest lasting and the biggest impact on behavior come as a result of giving the animal the opportunity to choose. The power of choice to create their own outcome. Since consequences are a powerful driving force, nothing can compete with the reinforcement value received when an animal's choice produces the consequences of a highly desired positive outcome.
So in this next section, Susan does lots and lots of teaching for the next about 3.5 minutes. So I'm going to skip forward again. I encourage you to watch how she does this. She just did a wonderful job in here. And I'm going to skip forward to 5:40, where just like in that first video, in the first pre-launch video, she told a story. She's going to tell a story here as well.
Inspired training system, you're creating an addiction of sorts for that animal wanting to participate in any activity that you ask. Let me give you an example of this in my own life. My oldest border collie, Buzz, when he was younger, he was crazy about swimming. Obsessed, you might say. The first time I ever let him in the pond, he swam, I timed him, he swam for 30 minutes without giving thought to coming out. His love for swimming became a problem, so I had to put some criteria on it. He wasn't allowed to swim unless I gave him the cue, go for a swim. Buzz and I ended up with this game. He would just stand by the edge of the pool or the pond, and he would stare at it and look at me and stare at me and wait for that cue. Sometimes I gave it to him and sometimes I didn't.
So Susan continues on with the story here, but again, it's really powerful to bring story into your pre-launch content. Then she continues on, lots and lots of teaching, really high value teaching throughout here. Continues to go on. In this section up around 12.5 minutes, she starts to get very specific. In here, there's the two choices. So there's this theme throughout this video of the two different ways to go, two different choices. But up around 12:50, she starts to get very specific about strategies and tactics that you can use in your training. So this is very high value stuff. Here, I'm just going to give you a quick example.
If we were like good parents, we would decide to restrict this puppy's access to all these amazing environmental reinforcements. We would house the puppy in a size-appropriate crate anytime we couldn't supervise his activities. We would use a larger exercise pen, but only if we were in the same room that we could see what was going on. Any time the puppy would be with adult dogs, we'd supervise that interaction and frequently interrupt it with short bursts of playing with us, so that the puppy learns that all good things, all of those reinforcing choices, come from working with people first. We play games to create value for people and always have the puppy on a leash anytime we're outside in the garden. And when it comes time to want to teach the puppy.
So through this next section, Susan just keeps on giving very specific, high value content training, building massive authority, likability, social proof, and also just reciprocity, where she's giving great content. And she does that throughout this entire video. Then around 15:10, as she's getting ready to close down this video, she starts foreshadowing the next video.
And the dog. And that's a critical key in success when we're looking to alter any behavior. Now, how can you set your own stage at home to create choices that produce positive outcomes, which are a win-win for everybody? I'm going to leave you with that thought. It may seem like an overwhelming task right now, but in my next webinar, I'm going to show you how you can break this huge task down into manageable chunks to set up success for everyone.
So you can see how that naturally builds curiosity, anticipation for that next video. So she's just leading them down the garden path, one video to the next video, showing why you should be paying attention and why you want to get that next video. So build anticipation for that video. Now in this next section, there's going to be real community building and social proof, and then she'll reflect back to that big why that we talked about in the first video.
I want to thank you for your amazing comments that you left on webinar number 1. And also to thank you for sharing it with your dog-loving friends. You know, more than 4,000 people watched that first webinar. I hope you take pride in knowing that by sharing this knowledge with our friends and others who have dogs, we're helping to change the lives of dogs and their people. And for that, I thank you. Let's allow.
And now in this final section, she's going to do more foreshadowing of the next video and setting up for the next video.
The power of choice to create appropriate routes of reinforcement for our dogs and for people everywhere. Until that time, think about it, and I'll see you next week when we're working on creating a framework to set up more of those highly desired, valuable consequences.
So this is an example of a video that was about 16 minutes long, just over 16 minutes long. Great pre-launch content number 2 that was just really starts to drive home that this is very, very doable, why you need to do this, and it's very, very doable. It gives specific strategies, specific tactics, has a huge amount of teaching, fits all that into 16 minutes, and really does a great job of nailing down objections, of answering objections, and of getting people anticipating, the viewer anticipating that next video.